Space Marine 2 had massive boots to fill. Being the sequel to the original Space Marine, beloved by casual fans and veterans alike, the hype surrounding Space Marine 2 was immense. I was super excited for its release, and I thoroughly enjoyed what I played at launch. However, we are now 10 months post-launch, and while the game's had updates, adding post-launch content, which is fantastic, it has, and still is, suffering from technical issues, some of which are minor, others that completely crash or disconnect the game and sour the whole experience. Space Marine 2 is loud, proud, and refreshingly old school. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's strapping a bolter to it and driving straight through a horde of Tyranids. It might not be flawless, but it absolutely delivers on what it sets out to be: a brutal, cinematic, and deeply satisfying power fantasy. This video is a post-launch retrospective to study the game and look at what it excelled at, how the constant updates have kept the content feeling fresh, what the current issues are, and how it falters. The core gameplay of Space Marine 2 feels heavy and weighted. It's brutal and endlessly satisfying. Every bolt round and chainsword swing hits with weight and violence. Space Marine 2 wastes no time in letting you feel the power of being one of the Emperor's Angels of Death. The main facets of the gameplay loop involve two kinds of combat: ranged and melee. Ranged combat, as you can imagine, is utilised when targets are further away or to rapidly mow down hordes of filthy Xenos or heretic scum. Melee combat is used when you're looking to get up close and personal, ripping limbs from Tyranid warriors or turning the chaos-ridden Thousand Suns into dust. These combat modes are used interchangeably in every combat encounter, and it's completely up to the player what they decide to use. You can seamlessly swap from throwing bolter fire down range into a melee attack with your Thunder Hammer, and then straight back to bolter fire again. It feels fluid and never clunky. The melee combat in particular is incredibly satisfying. You can parry enemy attacks that stuns them and then really give them a good wallop. And the execution animations are absolutely phenomenal. Not only do they restore shields as a gameplay mechanic, but they are also so satisfying to do and they look awesome. Combat never feels stale either. Due to the various enemy types you encounter, both Tyranid and Chaos alike, there are 4 main levels of enemies. Minoris are your standard small horde enemies such as Hormagaunts, Termagaunts, etc. Majoris are slightly more dangerous enemies like Tyranid warriors or Chaos Space Marines. Above them are extremist enemies. These are elite enemies that pose a huge threat, such as Lictors or Thousand Sun sorcerers. And finally, we have Terminus level enemies. These are the highest threat level enemies, such as a Tyranid Carnifex or a Thousand Suns Hellbrute. This variation of enemy types gives Space Marine 2 a good pool to pull from for each combat encounter. No two operations are the same, and with the new Horde mode recently released, these enemies come in huge waves, making them all the more dangerous. It keeps the combat feeling fresh and fun, and prevents it from getting stale and repetitive. The game feels vastly different to its predecessor. It's a lot less hack and slashy, and feels a lot more refined. Parrying enemies requires exact timing, and while the game drives the power fantasy forward, you are still vulnerable. Shields can go down and health can be rapidly lost if you play carelessly or just try charging and meleeing in every enemy encounter. You may have gotten away with that in the previous entry, but it won't work here. The game also offers class progression. There are a total of 6 classes to choose from, ranging from tactical all the way to heavy. Whether you prefer to play as a sniper from afar or support your squad as a bulwark, there's a class suitable for everyone. Each class has weapons to level up and perks to unlock. This encourages players to try and experiment with the various loadouts, perks and classes, providing a refreshing gameplay loop that doesn't go stale. Leveling up leads to new perks, which leads to harder difficulties, more XP, therefore leading to stronger weapons, rinse and repeat. And that's not even mentioning the cool shiny armor you are rewarded for playing more operations. Much like I said in my Deep Rock Galactic video, the gameplay feeds into the grind flawlessly. The level design in Space Marine 2 leans heavily into scale and spectacle. Whether it's the Tyranid-stained skies of Kadaku or the towering monoliths of the Imperial world Avarax, every environment feels larger than life. Brutalist, gothic and unmistakably Warhammer 40k. The game is packed with stunning set pieces and atmospheric world building that makes it feel like you're fighting through a living codex illustration. From cavernous hive cities to war-torn trenches and scorched alien landscapes, the visual identity of each level feels purposeful and oppressive in the best way. Structurally, missions follow a fairly familiar and reliable rhythm. While it follows a predictable formula, fight, brief quiet, checkpoint, repeat, the variety in enemy types and jaw-dropping set pieces help keep things engaging. It's a tried and tested formula, and while it doesn't often deviate from that template, it executes it well. The pacing is tight, the arenas are well constructed for combat flow, and the constant forward momentum helps the power fantasy stay front and centre. There is a good variety of missions to play, ranging from the very beginner-friendly Inferno operation, involving Tyranids and trying to burn a massive horde of Promethium, to the more extreme operations like taking down a Tyranid Hive Tyrant or a Demon Host. Most of the missions follow a similar formula, but they are level design and objectives vary enough to make the experience feel different. One of my favourite missions involves taking down a Tyranid Hierophant Bio-Titan. It's one of the coolest operations so far, showcasing a truly massive Tyranid enemy as you lace it with las cannon fire to obliterate it within the final hours of Kadaku as it falls to the Tyranids and becomes biomass.
Augurs no longer detect any high-profile targets.
The campaign structure as a whole is linear, but it's designed to feel like an escalating war effort. Each mission builds on the last in both narrative intensity and visual scale, giving a real sense of progression through a conflict-ravaged galaxy. You're not just hopping from planet to planet, you're driving a frontline forward. There's a steady ramp-up of challenge, enemy variety and environmental complexity, culminating in some truly massive climactic set pieces. And while the structure doesn't offer much room for player choice or exploration, it doesn't need to. Space Marine 2 is a focused, bombastic experience that prioritizes pacing and spectacle over branching paths or sandbox freedom. There's great environmental storytelling as well. One scene in particular involves a commissar lining up Astra Militarum soldiers that have committed acts of treason and then proceeding to have them executed by a firing squad.
You're a boil on the pride of the Cadian Guard. You have disgraced yourselves by abandoning your brothers. Your punishment is dishonorable death. Squad! Ready! Aim! Fire!
Blessed Emperor, I have failed you. I beg of you that you forgive my cowardice.
This is a small window into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium in which Space Marine 2 is set. Another is on one of the operations where Astra Militarum troops are planning on what to do as Kadaku faces its final hours against a Hierophant Biotitan. Again, it's another window into the gritty, dark and miserable world that is Warhammer 40,000. While Space Marine 2 excels in giving players the exhilarating feeling of power that comes from being a Space Marine in the campaign, playing as Demirian Titus, Space Marines 2 co-op operations mode is where the game really shines. Operations are PvE-based missions that tie directly into the main story of the game, allowing 3 players to work through objectives and hordes of enemies on varying difficulties. While the main objective of each individual operation remains the same, for example, Inferno will always have an end objective to hold out before lighting the Prometheum fields on fire to burn the Tyranid Horde, no 2 operations are ever the same. Objectives can move around. The amount of objectives needed in certain sections can change. Holdout sections can be longer or shorter, and the enemy encounters will usually change as well. This makes it so that even though the overall operation stays the same and becomes familiar, the actual gameplay changes between runs. What also changes operations is the difficulty selected. Lower difficulties usually means less enemies, easier combat, but also less XP and rewards. Higher difficulties, like lethal, involve swarming hordes of enemies, difficult combat, punishing modifiers, but also higher XP count and better rewards, including unique cosmetics. There's a difficulty for everyone, so whether you want to take it easy and just crush some Xenos scum, or you want to feel the true experience of being an angel of death and dying for the Emperor of Mankind, there's a difficulty for any occasion. The functionality of co-op has remained the same across the board since launch. 3 players with 3 different classes of Space Marines, grinding through operations, usually on increasing difficulties to gain more XP and better rewards like weapons and cosmetics. It never really strays from that formula, and hasn't really changed since launch. It would be interesting in future to see bigger operations with a team of 6 Marines, or allowing players to have duplicate classes, maybe even Chaos-themed operations, but we'll have to wait and see. When it comes to end game content, there isn't really a whole lot to do. The highest difficulty used to be lethal, and the developers did add an even harder difficulty titled Absolute, which gives veteran players a serious challenge, gives them most rewards, and by beating each operation on this difficulty, there are some unique cosmetics to be earned as well. Each class has a maximum of 4 prestige levels currently as well, so by sacrificing your perks and starting again, you can earn permanent perks that make individual classes more powerful. However, once you've maxed your classes and weapons, there's not much left to do. You can grind your research points by completing unique challenges, which are satisfying, but the overall experience starts to feel repetitive. Even though operations don't always play the same, they do start to wear on you the more you play them. Of course, we've had new operations added over the course of several updates, which has always been a breath of fresh air, but the novelty does wear off relatively quickly and then starts to feel repetitive again. While the overall gameplay loop is solid, completing the same handful of objectives over and over starts to get boring after a while. Thankfully, the latest addition to co-op is the brand new Siege mode. Siege mode involves 3 players going against wave on wave of enemies, either Chaos or Tyranids, and it was the Horde mode everyone had been eagerly waiting for. There are only 2 difficulties for Siege mode, either normal or hard. Each wave gets progressively harder and things can get overwhelming very quickly. It really leans into the feeling of a final last stand against hordes of enemies, using points that you earn to call in Cadian reinforcements, supplies, or even a dreadnought. Overall, Siege mode is a fantastic addition to the already satisfying gameplay loop Space Marine 2 offers, and is super fun to play. It was worth the wait for the most part, but there are some issues, both technical and player-sided, that do spoil the experience. Unfortunately, while the game delivers on spectacle, performance hiccups can occasionally pull you out of that immersion. Space Marine 2 is a fantastic game at its core, but it isn't without flaws. The game has had its fair share of bugs and technical issues, some of which are fixed, some that are still plaguing the game and ruining the experience. The main issue that has been consistent pretty much since launch is disconnecting. Partway through an operation, or more frustratingly siege mode, the game will just disconnect for no reason and then all progress is lost. There's no reconnection feature, no way to join back. The game just robs you of all progress, and after 2 or 3 instances, it really starts to suck the joy of playing out of you. It's happened to me now on numerous occasions and really puts me off playing the game at all, and every time it's supposed to be fixed, the issue always seems to creep back in. So while the devs have made it a top priority, it's hard to want to boot up and play Space Marine 2 for fear of losing all progress and ruining the game for me completely. There are other issues too, but these are less technical and more player-facing. While most players in the Space Marine 2 community are great, helpful and supportive to new and old players alike, there are always some that have to ruin things. There have been reports of other players stealing resupplies and items in siege mode when other players have spent their points to get them. Another issue is kicking. Recently, I got booted from a game for absolutely no conceivable reason, and it was right before the last section of an operation. I got no XP, no rewards, nothing. Game just said, sorry, you've been kicked, and that was it. It's a terrible system.
The Codex Astartes does not support this action.
Kicking should be done via a unanimous vote, and if you are kicked from a game for some reason, the game should just allow you to continue on your own with AI to finish the operation and let you earn your rewards, not just rob you of the progress. This simple fix would prevent so much griefing going forward, and the same for the disconnection issue as well. If the game just allowed you to just either join back into the lobby or even just continue on your own, it would make the issue so much less annoying. While still not ideal, being kicked or disconnected, this would at least lessen the grief of constantly losing progress and spoiling the whole experience. On the brighter side, the post-launch support for Space Marine 2 has been fantastic. We've had new operations added over time, a brand new siege mode recently dropped, we've got an incredible looking chapter themed cosmetics for certain classes, a new difficulty and the new research point system to earn as well. On top of that, we've had new enemy types added to the game as well, from Tyranid biovores and a massive Trigon in one mission, to a new Chaos enemy. The devs have continuously added new and fresh content that shows they are committed and dedicated to keeping the game fun and immersive. We've had a couple of new weapons post-launch too. The first new weapon added to the game was the Neo-Volkite pistol, a secondary weapon that fires a continuous beam at enemies, and the latest addition to the weapons was another secondary, this time the Inferno pistol. There's also been a rumour that we may get a power axe at some point in the future, and also power claws, and I no longer need to cross my fingers that we get the Pyre Blaster soon, because it has been confirmed that that is now coming to the game and it will look awesome with a Salamander-styled Heavy Marine. The bottom line is, the developers clearly care deeply about Space Marine 2 and will continue to support it for the foreseeable future, and they are committed to fixing the bugs and technical crashes, while listening to their player base for feedback. It is a shame that such a fantastic game has these issues, but we should count ourselves lucky that the devs actually care enough to focus on fixing things rather than abandoning their project entirely. Space Marine 2 isn't perfect, but it absolutely nails what it sets out to do. It's big, bold, and bombastic, a game that knows exactly what it is and delivers that experience unapologetically. In a time of bloated, open worlds and trend-chasing design, it's refreshing to just pick up a bolter and go to war. Leave a like if you're ready to serve the Emperor, drop a comment with your favourite weapon or mission, and subscribe for more deep dives into the best and bloodiest games out there. For the Emperor.
Sons of Guilliman, for the glory of Ultramar!
For the glory of Ultramar!